Thanks for having me. And I'm excited to share this with the students because my path is not a straight one at all. And I started out wanting to be a marine biologist because my dad made me watch Nova endlessly as a child. All we watched was PBS. So we watched Nova all the time, and they had a story about some stranded whales, and it did not end well for the whales. And that was about age 5. And from then on, it was like, I want to save the whales. And that went all the way through college until I got to my second or third year of college. I wanted to be a marine biologist, took all the classes I could for marine science, and graduated with a biology degree. But as I went to that like second, third year, I realized that the students that were growing up through college with me, and I was a residence advisor, so I was kind of in charge of an all-girls dorm. They weren't coming out of school with a basic knowledge of science. They weren't coming out with knowing how the circulatory system worked, or knowing, just simple things about the elements. And I decided then that maybe I wanted to be a teacher. Maybe I would be better off, instead of scrubbing some PhD's deck, while they were doing all the cool research and I was the handyman, that maybe it would be better to be a teacher. So I re-enrolled immediately and got my education degree. And as I did my student teaching, I student taught in an AP classroom. So we got to do some really cool in-depth, lab projects, and got to really know a few kids really well. And I did 2 internships, and I did one with a general level science class. And in that science class, it was more by the book. And I wasn't allowed to go outside. And as a scientist, that kind of made me antsy. But when I took them out to do observations, it was so much funner for them because somebody found an ant that was drowning in a puddle, and like 10 kids were like rooting for the ant to make it out. And they gave them little life rafts and sticks and things like that. And they got so much more out of how to observe doing that than sitting there literally staring at a jar of eggs, waiting for something to happen. So at that point, I decided, I want to be a teacher, but I can't be an indoor teacher. Is there a job for me? And luckily there was, where I did all my marine science work. I went back to the Marine Science Consortium in Chincoteague, Virginia, and I did my work there as a marine ecology teacher. And I did field ecology, and I took students out anywhere from 3rd grade up through college. I took them out. We did trawls. So we drug a net and looked at the things that we got out of the creeks. We went out to the dunes. We studied dolphins. So it got me back to the marine science that I loved, and it allowed me to teach. And I'm like, wow, I never knew you could be a teacher and wear a swimsuit 6 days a week and sit on the beach. And that was what I was getting paid for. Now it was 5:30 in the morning. I was watching dolphins, but it was better than being in a classroom, and I got to teach, and I still got to do the marine science. When I left there, then I went to Illinois, and I worked for Illinois University, and I was in an outdoor education setting. So I went from a field research teaching to an outdoor education teaching, and that was completely different. I did not know there was a difference between outdoor ed and environmental ed. Outdoor ed is we are teaching, but we're just located outside. And although the programs that we taught there were amazing, the kids were inner city kids, they loved it. It honed in on what I wanted to do as environmental ed. I wanted to teach people about what that tree is, how that tree is connected to me, why I should care about that animal, what makes it important to people, instead of just being outside when you teach. So I went back to Virginia. I taught elder hostel, and that was 65 and older. So that's a whole different demographic, a whole different type of teaching skills. And then I came to Pittsburgh and I ran a nonprofit. And that was a whole other ball of wax. You had to learn about grant writing and the interactions between municipalities and the residents and all sorts of things. Then I went to a land trust, and I learned about how people preserve land and keep green spaces, and what do we need to do to educate people to do that. And now I'm moving on, and I'll be working in 4-H. So I'll be teaching students, all about science in a whole different way, and it all started with Nova. So I guess I blame my dad. So